Fathers in anime are a mixed bag a lot of the times. On one hand, you get the kind of dads that sacrifice life and limb for their children. You know, the kind of anime dad that everyone loves. Then on the other hand, you get the terrible fathers that seem to either harm their own standing with their children, or even in some cases put them into direct danger. Either way, today we're going to talk about some of the best and regrettably worst fathers in anime. Let's get into it. Devilishly handsome and a top-tier adventurer, Zenith scored big with Paul in Mushoku Tensei. Who wouldn't want a man that has it all as Paul does? It's just that there's one exception. He's a terrible father and husband. Paul Eat Dangerously may be the father to one Rudius, but that doesn't mean Paul isn't without some significant critical flaws. Cheating on Zenith, who is, by the way, objectively speaking, a top 5 MILF ever of all time, and is on the certified SeaTactics wall of MILFs. That alone is enough to make him the worst husband. You just don't cheat on a girl as insanely talented, smart, experienced, and as beautiful as Zenith, because not only is Zenith hot, she's hot, and she is a top-tier adventurer, much like Paul himself, which would make me fearful of my own life if I ever made a woman like Zenith mad. But he does. And not only does he bungle it, he also does so by getting the maid pregnant. Good one, Paul. What makes him a terrible father is that when confronted with the truth in the case of Rudy fighting back with facts and logic, Paul remains stubborn and willingly spites his son just to stay right in a situation. If Rudy were not a man in his 30s, then this surely would have scarred him, which is implied that it still does anyways. But it only gets worse. Paul sends Rudy away to one of his old one-night stands and top-notch super best cat girl, Ghislaine, who I call Gasoline for funsies. Has anyone ever heard of compromise in this family? No. This doesn't make Paul the worst father on the list, or really any worst father lists. Far from the worst. And there are plenty of great qualities that go beyond him being a great adventurer and being smart enough to score Zenith. While Paul is egotistical and full of his own pride, he knows when to act and do the right thing and does everything he can after the Mana disaster to track down Zenith, Aisha, Ghislaine, and the others while providing for his child daughter, Norn. He even makes up with his son after understandably getting mad at Rudy for not trying to figure out where his mother and sister are, which causes a big fight. Yes, Paul is technically a bad father, but he may be redeemable. Time will of course tell, and maybe a follow-up video will be made if he does. Sent by the owl, stepping outside the walls that fateful day brought him freedom. Freedom from the clutch of the oppressive Marley. Freedom from controlled thought. But Grisha is an example of a father who had 2 sons that both did amazing things, except his track record of being a husband and a father, it's less than desirable. So I guess I'm about to make the case of Grisha being a good and a bad father all at once. Firstly, the man absolutely must be recognized for his contributions to mankind by landing not only Dina Fritz, who is already top tier MILF, but as well Carla Yeager, who is without a doubt the best MILF of AOT. In all seriousness though, joking aside, Grisha did everything he did for the future of mankind and tried his absolute best to do the right thing. But in the face of everything, he succeeded and failed on 2 separate occasions as a father. On one hand, Grisha is a terrible father to Zeke for forcing him to become Grisha's pseudo-pawn in the war against Marley that would ultimately send Zeke down the path of becoming friends with Dr. Saver and snitching on his parents. All Zeke ever wanted was a real mother and father that would take care of him and be there for them so that he could look up to someone. Grisha, without a doubt, failed as a father to Zeke, and it cost Grisha nearly everything until Aaron Kruger, the very man that was submissive in his little sister's murder, would actually save his life, revealing himself to be an Eldian and giving him the power of the Attack Titan. This allows Grisha to relocate to the walls of Paradise Island, where he would eventually marry Carla and have his second son that he named after the man who gave him a new life, Aaron Yeager. With Aaron, well, he wasn't exactly the best father of all time to him. The man honestly did try his best, and Aaron lived a relatively pretty normal childhood. He had a normal mother, he wasn't forced into this ideal that he wouldn't be able to understand for a war that spanned centuries at this point. Aaron Yeager had a loving father and mother, something Zeke never got. Also, Also, just in general, I feel like I can forgive Grisha for this because Grisha is trying to stop Marley from oppressing and murdering his fellow people. Did he mess up with Zeke? Did he force Eren to become the Attack Titan? Yeah, he did all that, but it was either that or the blood of innocence on his hands, and to me, that outweighs him being a generally awful father. Then again, I feel Grisha is so complicated that it comes down to perspective, honestly. So please let me know if you think Grisha is a good or bad father. For the absolute best father of all time, I searched far, I searched wide, I searched long. Can you even search long? And most importantly, I searched in very cold places and found one of the warmest fathers in all of anime. Thor's, or Thor's, from Vinland Saga, the father of the tragic Thorfinn who lost Thor's at a young age, sending him down a spiral of hatred and vengeance seeking that took away the smile of a bright and young boy and turned him into a ruthless mercenary that Askeladd would use and eventually become a father figure in his own way to the young boy. Though before Askeladd murdered Thor's, he left the life of war and battle behind him to focus on his wife Helga, his daughter Ylva, and his second child, Thorfinn. Thor's became the epitome of the family man, being an upstanding example to both Ylva and Thorfinn, the aforementioned being a unique example of a girl in her village that exhibited more manly traits like her father, and thus, unlike other girls, is physically stronger and doesn't care as much about romance. It's actually through Ylva that we see how great of a father is and how he sets the example of what a strong and good person should be despite his past. It's not until Thor's is brought back forcibly into the life of being a Viking and eventually betrayed and murdered, do we truly see the effect that Thor's had on Thorfinn, where we could clearly see it with Ylva before. We can see the building blocks of a great, hardworking young man that Thorfinn was becoming. He picked up a strong sense of justice from Thor's and set off with Askeladd with one goal in mind, and that's to kill the man that murdered his father, Askeladd. This is further expressed in the story when we see Thorfinn start to lose the way, an example his father set as he starts to be, in a sense, raised by Askeladd and his band of ruthless Vikings. What was before a young and pure boy who looked up and admired his father was then corrupted by Askeladd, and the values and examples Thor set faded away ever so slowly. A tragic fate for the young Thorfinn, but at the same time, this shows that Thor's is easily one of the best fathers in anime for how strongly Thorfinn felt for his father, and as well how he treated and raised Ylva, and how he provided for his weak wife Helga. Rest in peace, Thor's. You are one of the good ones. While we are on the topic of Vinland Saga, check out my previous Vinland Saga videos. As well, leave a like if you want more of this content. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.